I am John Billingsley, a.k.a. Dr. Phil, No Dirty Forceps Flux, and you are listening to Strange New Pod.
Welcome to another edition of Strange New Pod. I am your time captain and host, Julian Brown, alongside the best... Whoa, I screwed that up so bad. Oh, yeah, no, I didn't. I just am not used to reading a new intro because timey-wimey, we've gone through doing this episode so much. Alongside the best temporal agents, this side of Toronto being one of the most important fronts during the Temporal Cold War, Vice Admiral Eric is here wondering why we didn't time travel to the past and do more Enterprise episodes going into our, fourth year of the show. Captain Giraffe is here, always ready for punching more Nazis. Yes, punch Nazis, always. And MC is here, Commander MC, I should say, living for Vulcans, having emotional outbursts when Trip talks dirty to them.
Just the first part, the emotional outburst from Vulcans. I don't need the other part.
Yeah, no, fuck Trip. Welcome back, guys. How we doing tonight?
Yeah.
It's
It's cold and the internet is funny.
it's cold. The internet's funny. I don't know what's going on. So yeah, this is the episode we've been joking was temporarily fitzed around with to be in 1 year, and now it's another year. So it went from being in 2023 to 2024, the year the Bell riots. They're coming, folks.
Finally.
Jeez.
Isn't that what that movie Civil War is about? The one that's coming out?
Yeah, I don't know, but we're overdue. What is it? It's the 30th of August, right? 31st of August?
I think so.
Yeah.
It's one of those.
We need to do something. Things are too expensive in California. Just like burn down San Francisco so I can buy a house. I don't know. Like,
But why San
please.
Francisco?
Because
That's where the Bell Rise happens.
That's where the Bell
it
okay.
happens. Yeah.
That's fair.
And I mean, because we're speaking about that, just like, look at what's happening in your city. I'm living in San Diego, and they're literally opening sanctuaries. Like, literally. They bought land, and they're building a ranch where they're going to displace all the homeless people that they don't want in San Diego, and they're going to put them there to live. And that's happening right now. So, yeah. What do you vote in your local elections?
I mean, it's happening in Canada too, which is sad.
Yep. Yeah. So
Sorry,
that's sad.
Happy
bust
times.
Happy
the
talk.
mood, but
Yeah,
It's okay.
I mean, we're talking about Enterprise this episode, so I mean the mood's already.
True.
Yeah, sorry, Eric.
You mean happy? It's happy, right?
It's happy. Oh God.
I'm regretting suggesting an Enterprise episode.
No.
So, I mean, honestly, all I said was, we haven't done an Enterprise episode yet.
Yeah, it was time. Speaking of finally getting to it, this week we are deep diving as best as we possibly can. The Temporal Cold War, just trying to make any kind of sense of it because I wrote the outline and I had a headache afterwards. It doesn't make a lot of sense. But yes, from its origins on Enterprise to its effect on the 32nd century on Discovery, and then, the ever-changing landscape of the Prime timeline, which, I mean, I don't actually think is a thing. We're going to talk about that a lot more. We're going to break that all down. We're going to deep dive it. We're going to try. But first, MC, you have not done it, I feel like, in ages. We need to thank our Patron collective members at the Ready Room level and above, please.
Thank you to Simon Stager, Jeff Reeve, Mariah Gossett, Tallulah, Jen Stein, Tina Alexander, Joe Saporito, Noe Santos, Ken Wee, Taco Nagumo, Fernando Nogales, SMK, Laura Linderman, Colin Davidson, Jesco, Michael Graham, Emily and Travis, Gildara, Cassie, Blue Chew Andorian Anachronism, appropriate today, Maggie Light, Tyrannokilicus, Wayne Ritz, Skonafark, Sean, Jay Howard, Anna Yerdadon, Mehani Uchiyama, Matt Herker, Davey Willett, Tara Pollen, Slope 74, Rude Parakeet, Joshua Miller, Adam Sanders, Eris Spenjan, Lanky Guy, Aaron Walke, Carl Angoli, Michael Kwan, TJ, Mayor, Caitlin, Elizabeth Dean, Jim McMahon, Time Lord serving in Starfleet. That's illegal. Again, appropriate for today.
Yes.
Sedano 317. Puka Hair. 3 Fries Short. Kate Kat Tippy, tripping the read alert over a pineapple. Sean Manning, congressional baseball fan. Chris Waterman, RHCB, Martin Simpson, and Seven Rasmussen.
I think.
Rasmussen.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yay! The ever-growing list could be a temporal episode in itself. Also, a big thank you to our Badmirals, yes, our executive producer, Simon Steger, Commander Chris, the Chief, Ernesto Castagna, Chris Waterman, and Tara Pollen. A extra shout-out to Tara, who was the executive producer. She's the one who actually got the interview with John Billingsley. So, big shout-out to her. That was awesome. If you haven't listened to it yet, you should. There's nothing about Star Trek in it, which is great. It's literally about books.
What I was gonna say.
It's so good though.
It's
Do you really need to hear?
hour
Yeah,
of
Just discussing talking with a cool guy.
yeah. Like,
It actually cracks me up that all the feedback I had from that episode is like everybody was like, "Oh, I love listening about like Dostoevsky," and I'm like, "Cool."
Indeed. Yeah, that was really fun. It was fun listening to you guys. Yeah,
Matt Harker gave a succinct synopsis. It's about books and cat butt.
it's very accurate.
Cat butts.
There
Yeah,
is a
there's
cat butt.
some cat butts. Yeah.
There is. We are actually going to hear from Mr. Billingsley in a few minutes. We have a little John Billingsley guest spot cameo for the Strange New Loop. But before we do that, let's get into some quick news. We've been trying to scramble and figure out what we're going to do over the next couple of weeks episode-wise. Luckily, Paramount, being the clusterfuck that they are, has given us lots to deal with. So if you're familiar, we have done 2 prior wants and don't wants episodes. One for Strange New World Season 2, one for Prodigy Season 2. We're going to keep going. We're going to do a 2-part, 2-week wants and don't wants. Next week is going to be wants and don't wants for whatever this Picard Legacy TNG movie is going to be. And the next week, I think we're just going to do a wants and don't wants. What the fuck is happening with the Kelvin universe movie?
Star Trek 4.
Star Trek
The
4.
Return of the Comeback, Electric,
a
Boogaloo.
Kelvin
4.
prequel, which is basically just Enterprise. So,
They really want to get Chris Hemsworth back. But you know what? This is an episode for 2 weeks from now.
I want everybody on Twitter is talking about Giacchino doing Faith of the Heart, and I'm like, I'm here for this.
Dude, I would.
I mean,
Or Giacchino doing
Yeah,
like just Archer's theme, which is a beautiful piece of music.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Oh.
Right?
Yeah. Yep. So those episodes will be fun. If you notice, there's no mailbag for this episode. Those 2, as we always do for wants and don't wants, are going to be your show just as much as ours. It's going to be interlaced with your mailbags and what you guys want as well. So start thinking about that for the next couple of weeks. Happy hour was supposed to be this week. I had a big work thing yesterday. Been busy. Next week. We'll do it next week. It's going to be fun.
It was very busy until very late.
I was very busy until very late, and I'm still somewhat hungover, which is why I'm not drinking tonight. The pins. Eric's beautiful pins are en route. I just got the shipping notification. So probably the next couple of weeks, we'll start shipping those out. International patrons, if you would like to receive yours, we do unfortunately need you to pay for shipping. So if you would like to get yours, contact us. We'll get it all situated and figured out, because shipping internationally right now is just, unfortunately, we'd go broke. So, yeah. Anything else? Yeah. Oh, Giraffe. Tell us what's
Yes.
going on this Saturday with Trek Talks.
Hey, so if you have not listened to John Billingsley's interview, go do so. We speak, amongst other thing, about what's happening this Saturday, January 13th. It's the Trek Talks. It's gonna be 9 hours. How long are they streaming? Something like that. 12
It's
hours.
always really fucking
It's long.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so many Star Trek people, Star Trek actors, podcasters, fans, and they're raising money for the Hollywood Food Coalition. So go listen, give them a listen, give them a thumbs up, and give them money if you can. It's for a good cause.
It is, and we will be making a donation as the pod as well. It is a great cause. And yeah.
And you can give your time also.
Yep.
If you're in LA, you can go and volunteer and
Yep.
help feeding people.
Yep.
in LA.
Great thing to do. So check out Trek Talk Saturday. I know Bill and Dan personally, they're good friends from Trek Geeks, and I know how much work they put into this every single year. All the podcasts and, you know, the guests too involved. Like, dude, they have a whole Picard panel with like everyone but Patrick Stewart, basically. Like, that's huge. Sci-Fi Sisters are doing an amazing panel on Tuvix, I believe. Like, it's going to be a great night, or great day, I should say. So check it out. The other thing, we are going into our second year as partners with our dear friends at Heroes and Villains. I am wearing one of their shirts tonight. We're going to be getting some new stuff from them. Oh, yeah, there it is. That thing is gorgeous.
I was wearing mine earlier.
Yep.
It's so warm.
It's so comfy, but it's very warm, and it's not that cold in California.
That's why I
was
like it,
actually
because
wearing it yesterday night, but yeah.
Send it to Canada then, giraffe.
I've been wearing that instead of a winter coat. Like,
Oh, damn.
for serious.
It's really warm. It's really, really warm.
It looks so
Um,
bright. I love the color on it.
Eric, I don't even have your phone number. You think I have your address?
Ah,
That's fair.
Eric's hurt. Eric's hurt. You can get that. You can get this shirt. They have some cool new, if you're not crazy like me and wear a t-shirt year round, they do have some new long sleeve options. We're probably going to get a couple of those to show off in the next week or two. So, yeah, you can go to heroesandvillains.com right now. Get 20% off your first order if you've never ordered from there using our code STRANGE. Unfortunately, that is the US only. We do have it from their mouths that they are working on international licensing. It's not that they don't want to send it to you guys. It's that licensing's a bitch.
Jeff, you do have my address because you gave me a little Geordie.
Oh, yeah.
No, I didn't.
Oh,
said
I
that-
sent it
did
to
you send it-
somebody who sent it to you.
Oh.
oh.
You don't
That's more
remember?
confusing.
Somebody we don't talk about.
Oh, yeah. No, I know who you're talking
Oh.
about. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And that is where we're going to leave that.
All the skeletons in the SNP
the Strange New
closet.
closet. There's only a couple. Oh boy, let's get into the strange new loop. And before we do, I mean, it's part of the strange new loop, but I'm going to share my screen because John Billingsley did our strange new loop, and I'm going to show that. So let's see. Yes, share sound. We want people to hear it. Hopefully this goes to the right thing. Okay, so here is John Billingsley's strange new loop answer. This was hella funny, but I'm going to just let you guys listen to it. Here we go. If you were a time agent and you were transported somewhere into a timeline, what timeline in the Trek universe would
Oh, the
you
Trek universe.
most like to be transported to?
And I was going to say, can I transport myself into my own timeline?
I mean, you
You
could
can do whatever you want,
could do
let's
whatever
be
you
honest.
want. Yeah.
Are you asking that question
Yeah,
now?
so I'm asking that question now, and if you could give us your answer.
If I could be transported into my own temporal timeline, I have to say that I think I would want to go back in time when I was on a date with Kathy Bruns. I was a junior. No, I was a senior in high school. And I was so maladroit. I had absolutely no idea how to tell this stunningly lovely girl who I frankly was just stunned was willing to go out with me in the first place, that I really liked her. And it was one of those evenings where you just are tongue-tied the whole time, and it's over, and she goes away, and you're like, I'd like a second whack at that date.
I think
that-
we all would want a second whack at a bad date, right? I think that's a great answer.
Yeah, and the thing is, you have to go back with the same level of sophisticated understanding that you have now. If I went back and I was the same boob I was then, I'd just repeat the same fucking mistakes.
True,
So-
you have
True,
but
absolutely
that's
true.
what time travel is for, right? You can like
Yeah.
Plus, theoretically, I would remember all the teams that won the World Series, and I could bet on them, and I could buy Apple stock. And,
Oh, going back to the future style there. Yeah.
Yeah,
okay,
baby.
the sports
Yeah.
almanac, huh?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wonderful. That was
If
perfect.
Kathy Bruns is listening to this, I'm sorry. Kathy.
Imagine if Kathy Bruns was one of our listeners. Just
I
small
know.
world, right?
The
You never
road,
know. It's
the road not-
internet.
happily married. I realize that Jesus Christ, is she here?
John's gonna get in trouble.
I'm gonna get in trouble.
Oh, John Billingsley, never change. That was wonderful. Oh man,
That was hilarious.
dude's amazing.
Mm.
He's awesome. He's a great guy to talk to. You can just never. He's one of the nicest, I think, Trek actors, and someone's like so active in our community. And just where else are you gonna get an answer like that, right?
I was just thinking of his wife. I'd be like, when he started talking, I was like, where is Mrs. Billingsley?
Oh boy. So let's get into our answers for the Stranger Loop. If you were a temporal, and it's a little bit different for us. I kind of needed to go around the fact that he wanted to do just like a normal answer. So if you were a temporal agent and decided that changing one event in history wouldn't break the timeline too much, what would it be? And you two,
Oh, I got
Clark,
it.
let us know.
Star Trek event?
history or like normal history?
Normal. It could be. So I'll open it up. It could be normal history. It could be Star Trek history.
I got one.
Whatever you want. Okay, Eric, go ahead.
I would go back to the producers of season 3 of Enterprise and be like, don't change the don't update the theme song. Don't make it that fast, weird version. Just keep it. It's already weird enough. Just keep it at the first weirdness. The first weirdness was good enough.
The first weirdness was good enough from Eric's mouth. There you go. Who else has got one?
I have one. I would have Spock and Uhura not break up in Star Trek Beyond because that made absolutely no sense.
But they
because
needed to
acted
have
like
the
they
little
were together
piece of,
anyways.
So
piece
wait,
of radioactive rock.
Are you
I mean, that
going?
was
Like,
not-
are you going to talk to the writer so it doesn't happen in the movie, or are you going in a Trek timeline so it doesn't happen in? The
I
Trek
mean, I
timeline?
could do either,
could do both.
honestly. Yeah, because I mean, it makes absolutely no impact. They act like they're together throughout the thing, anyways, and all it does is infuriate the Spora shippers.
Yeah.
I'm too chaotic. Everything I'm thinking about would have like huge
Yeah.
repercussion on
Yeah.
everything. Like,
That's why I came up with that one, because all of the other stuff is like, no, that would have huge impact.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would like.
That's why I didn't say
Janeway to
season
keep
5.
Tuvok as her first officer, and
In
that
Picard.
would have like huge
Yeah.
repercussions.
Oh, Janeway in Voyager choosing
Mhm.
Tuvok. Yeah, it would. It would change the power dynamic totally of that show. And there might actually be a Maquis rebellion if Chakotay is not first officer.
Or Chakotay and Janeway might fuck. So
Yeah, I mean, dude, they were fucking. Come on, they were fucking. We didn't.
they'll be open about it, though,
Yeah, they'd be open about it. It's true. It's true.
and we
in the
wouldn't have
hallway.
to have 7 in Chakotay.
Yeah, true. That
I would uncancel Discovery. Would
That's
that
a great answer. No,
would that like
I don't think that
impact the timeline?
no,
I don't think
no.
so.
I like.
I
that.
would
Or-
have
or-
them make a Discovery movie
I was gonna say
from like
that.
the year when Michael is by herself.
Oh God.
Yes.
Oh.
You know what I would say? Keep the cancellation, but tell us that they're going to movies instead.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
And I feel like we're like going into the what if territories.
But yeah, they could.
I mean,
They could
always good.
adapt. They could adapt. What's the name of the book? The
Wonderlands.
Yeah, Wonderlands, which is just absolutely wonderful. Wonderful Wonderlands. I'm gonna read some of the chats first, because there's some really good ones in here, and some of them I think actually would have some pretty big ramifications. Kang
Mhm.
first. I transport to the Enterprise during the Pegasus incident and delete Riker's Enterprise NX-01 holodeck program.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
100%.
funny because we were talking about this off
Mhm.
before we got live, and MC has the theory that we were talking how like Enterprise doesn't look like a real show. Like it looks like a show in a TV show, you know, like a fake show.
And it's very horny.
And that actually all Enterprise is just
Mhm.
like Riker's holodeck program and him making up like that fucking show.
They
I'd see
clean
it.
those filters way more with Riker.
Oh God. Yeah. Yeah. Collins is very serious. I would want to save Abraham Lincoln. Now,
That would change so much.
I think that would change a lot. Like the dude was so influential, right? Like the whole landscape of politics, if he had lived, I think could have
Or
changed.
maybe we think like that because he got murdered. Maybe he would just. I'm too French for this. I think that all big figure leave to go bad.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
But Colin's saying for the better. But the problem with that, whether it's for the better or for the worse, there's
it would
still
change things. Yeah.
like it would be a massive change to the timeline. Like I'd have to imagine if like you go to Doctor Who, or some other sci-fi series that do like 12 Monkeys, like fixed points in time. I would probably say Lincoln's assassination is a fixed point in time.
An incredibly fixed point in time. Like, I mean, like, look at every series where people try to stop JFK's assassination. Usually they end up having to become JFK.
Or River
then.
Song trying to go kill Hitler. Yeah. CBF, maybe also tell the DS9 folks not to speed up the opening credits either. I disagree. I like the sped up DS9 intro. It moves it a little bit faster and still just as beautiful. Are we frozen? No, we're not frozen. We're good. Oh, Giraffe's frozen. No, Giraffe, you're frozen. Sorry, lady.
She's so
boy,
serious.
she looks so upset. Oh boy. We'll get Giraffe back in a little bit.
You can make that into a t-shirt.
Yeah, we should make that into a. There she is. She's back. She is back.
Thank you.
I thought
The
I would be the
chat-
first one to disappear, to be honest.
The chat is like here to tell me if it's me or you guys. I'm like, is it me? Am I the drama? Yeah, I was.
You're
always
usually the drama.
Matt Harker, this is an interesting one. Well, I'll get your opinion on this one. Writes, what if the Challenger shuttle never exploded?
Ooh, that's, I think, a
Have
big
you
one.
watched All Mankind? Or
I
All
actually do need
Mankind,
to
like,
watch that
basically.
show.
For All Mankind is so good.
I'm gonna binge that show at some point.
Also, Hoshi's on that show.
Is she? Is she a lead?
Yeah. No, she shows up later. You'll see.
Got it. I've been having a hard time trying to come up with one of these. What would I do? Man, I don't know if I would do something in real life or in the Star Trek universe. I don't know. I don't know if I have one. Like, this is really hard. I would say I'd go to Patrick Stewart and I would tell him to have a bit more of an open mind about Picard season 1. Because, like, there were too many cooks in the kitchen for Picard season 1. And I think a lot of
More
that...
naked Romulans.
Yeah. I think, like, had he just given up some of, like, his wants early on, that could have ended up being a good season that was otherwise, like, just very mixed and made some horrible decisions in the finale. So I don't think that would change the timeline too much. Maybe we don't get the same Picard season 3, but I don't think it's
we'd
like...
probably get to Picard season 3 earlier than if Patrick Stewart had an open mind and would let TNG characters appear.
Yeah, exactly. So that's mine.
I don't know all the tea about the show. I don't know if I want to know about it.
No, it's not really tea. It's just like he was an executive producer and he had like a list of wants and, like we do, wants and don't wants for bringing back the character. And
was Hot Romulans
was all Sir Patrick.
His thing?
That was all his thing.
Oh, totally.
100%. Yep.
Good man. Good man.
Yeah. Let's get in to the if there are there more of these. There's a few, but otherwise we'll be here all day. We could do a whole podcast about this. Mine is to tell the producers to just do Picard season 3 and not the other 2 seasons. I mean, fair. Though, again, like, there's a lot that I liked about Picard season 1 and a lot I didn't like. It's hard. It's really, really hard. Let's get into the Temporal Cold War. And we are going to start by talking about the factions. And I feel like the Memory Alpha entry for the Cold War is not updated that well because...
Memory Alpha, to be honest, is very out of date.
It is. It's like, I feel like after the there was like a lot of drama a couple of years ago, and since then it hasn't been the same drama. AKA homophobia and other bullshit.
It was weird on Twitter already. Like, it's ad too.
Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about the factions that took part in the Temporal Cold War. We had Future Man, right? They call him fucking Mysterious Benefactor on Memory Alpha. I'm like, no, man, he's Future Man.
Man.
He's Future Man.
Which apparently the name
Shadow
came
Man.
from like a
Shadow Man, yeah.
reviewer, like a Star Trek reviewer. He came up with it, and the writers were just like, "Yeah, okay, we're gonna go with that."
What, Mysterious Benefactor?
No,
Or
Future Man.
Oh, Future Man. I love it. So we had Future Man and the Suliban, right? We had the Nakul, we had the Sphere Builders, and the United Federation of Planets. Now, not listed here are the Romulans, but I would say they are very much a faction in the Temporal Cold War.
If there is something called a Cold War, the Romulans are gonna be.
Yeah,
in it.
dude, for real.
They created the concept. They originated the language.
Yeah, exactly. Eric says, and I think we all would, we still would like to know who Future Man is. We never got to learn, and honestly,
Apparently,
It's Archer.
like,
Archer.
it was supposed to be Archer.
It
Yeah.
was supposed to be Archer. God rest his soul, though. Manny Cotto just did not want to do any more
My
Temporal Cold War
my
in
personal
season 4.
interpretation is that it's Cisco was trying for Wolf 359 not to exist, so his wife doesn't die.
That's good
Ah.
headcanon. I like it. So yeah, no, I did hear those rumors that Future Man was supposed to be Archer, though. That would have been very interesting. Like, would it be that he was bad in the future and like season 5 would be him trying to stop himself, or like it's interesting?
I mean, like
they
when
look
you're
at him.
dealing.
So say it again.
They look at him.
Oh, they Lorca him. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, like the thing is, when you're dealing with time travel, I mean, then you get into like, I mean, not to get all like MCU Loki with it, you get into variants. He's a mad variant of Archer. Like,
Yeah, fair.
you know,
Yep. So yeah, those are the factions. Romulans are definitely on there. You could say in a way that the Klingons are on there because the Suliban and Future Man were trying to destabilize the Klingon Empire to have a civil war earlier than when it happens in TNG. Like temporal mechanics. It's just,
everybody is.
What's the
faction in
what's
it.
the end game? That's what I don't get. Like, what are they trying to do? Like,
I think the end game is for that each one of these factions in the end to be the ultimate power in the universe. So like, you know, and I think a lot of them didn't want the Federation. Like the Romulans definitely were trying to make it so the Federation never existed. I think same thing with the Sphere Builders and the Suliban, which we'll talk about a lot. But yeah.
Well, I mean, like for the end game, like I'm gonna bring up the MCU again. They all want to be the ones in charge of the sacred timeline. Like there's, you know, like
Yes.
a certain like events going on. It's like all of these people, it's like we have a specific idea of how the timeline should go, and we're going to attack it in many different places. And
I'd be like,
people
just
keep on
put
changing
me
it.
Queen as like a side timeline. I'll be fine.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
give me a branch.
it's actually interesting though. The Nakul, they were the only ones who straight up had a like directive for it. They were like, we don't agree with the temporal accords. They're bullshit. Time travel should be free and available to everybody and be used to change timelines to the better. Like that was straight up their mission, and that's why Stormfront happens. They just wanted to be able to use it. So let's get to the I hate using the word origins for this because who knows what the fuck the origin is for it. But Cold Front, the episode Cold Front. We're first introduced to Daniels, who says that he's a temporal agent fighting in the Temporal Cold War. That's something that was brought up to Archer in the pilot, Broken Bow, when they, I guess he's talking to that one Suliban woman, and she brings up that she's like a temporal agent in the Cold War. So we hear about it in the pilot.
Mhm.
Silic, who's like Archer's big baddie nemesis, #1 Suliban guy, also sneaks aboard and gives Archer his case. There's a whole antimatter cascade because they're in this nebula because these kind of like religious folks want to see the big beautiful burst of antimatter, and it hits Enterprise.
The thing that Trip can never pronounce.
And an antimatter cascade happens and almost destroys Enterprise. But Silic is like, dude, I stopped it from happening. I pulled the plug so it didn't reach the warp core. And that Daniels is a bad guy. You know, that you know, the temporal accords are bullshit. The temporal Cold War is bullshit. Silic's a good guy. It's also revealed in this that Daniels at the 22nd century, so Enterprise, is a major front of the war, and that's kind of what I want to talk about here. We're going to talk about a lot in Shockwave as well. But how much sense, right, does it make to have this period of time be such a major front, right? Because like, if you're trying to be the ultimate power, have your own empire or federation, stopping Archer and the Enterprise, like kind of having them stumble along the way, makes it so the Federation is much less of a possibility. What do you guys think about this?
We have an order.
I've been forgetting to put an order. I'm gonna go.
Who's going first?
I'm gonna go by what I see clockwise. So it'll go Draft, Eric, MC.
Oh yeah. I think it makes sense because you'd be like, they're easy to tumble. The beginning of a program is always as less ramification, less like fail safe. But at the same time, I want to say that Bones did the exact same thing by being drugged out of his mind and like saving Edith Keller. And
right,
that was the end of the Federation.
Yeah.
There were other ways than the 22nd century that they never explored. But yeah, I think it's kind of like giving Enterprise a lot of importance. So fair that they did that.
Yeah.
The beginning of that program to start with in Enterprise makes no sense. So I'm just like,
the beginning of that episode or just the beginning of Enterprise in general?
Like the NX-01 program makes no sense. Like 0 sense. Like they have the captain is like a Nepo baby that has proven he's fucking insane. And they're like, yeah, let's go. And then they put Marines on it.
Right.
Like,
I don't think the NX-01 program doesn't make sense, but I always agree that Archer had no business being in the captain's chair. But that's another story.
I don't know. I think having a Nepo baby on, it makes total sense. I mean, like, we've seen like Starfleet likes its Nepo babies. Jack Crusher.
Fucking true. But it's also like they go into space knowing that there are other people there and have like no rules, no ethical ground, no conversation, no diplomatic corps, like no nothing. It's just a bunch of dudes that just like go with cowboy diplomacy. Like imagine if it was like just for real. Imagine the number of like delegation and talk and rules and like setups that we would have. It's just like putting people in a box and sending them away. Like, I don't know. Like, sure. But so it makes the program quite easy to actually sabotage.
Yeah.
Which they somehow still fail to do.
Yep.
Lazy ass temporal agents. That's what it is.
It is. They're not good at their jobs. That one lady was who helped La'an, but yeah.
Yeah,
Eric.
and she has some good drip also.
Yeah, for sure.
What was the question?
Just like how much sense does it make, right, to have the Enterprise era be, like Daniel says, such a major front for the Temporal Cold War, because it's kind of the beginnings of Starfleet and eventually the Federation.
I mean, it totally makes sense. Like when they introduced the temporal agents in the first season, I remember thinking, holy shit, this is gonna be so cool, because this is supposed to be the time when they formed the Federation. At least that was the hope. Like when back then, right? We were hoping to see that formation instead of just it happening in the last episode in a holodeck program. But like going back on Draft's cowboy diplomacy, it wasn't really cowboy diplomacy, because they were a militaristic outfit going around just like, yeah, we're saying hi. You don't care about? We're going to go say hi to you anyway. And that's all they did. But if it was like, if they were actually discovering things like out there and just be like I wanted a Firefly-esque Enterprise. Like I thought that would have been such a cool concept. And Firefly had come out already at that point. So I was like, oh shit, they're doing this beginning, this wild area. I was like, fuck, that'd be cool. And then they totally didn't go that way. And but then they introduced time travel, and they had fucking the lead from Quantum Leap in this show, and it sort of just got fumbled around. Like it was such a cool idea having like you guys had talked earlier, like Archer was supposed to be the
future man,
the future man, and maybe he had seen the Federation go off in a bad way, and that was him trying to correct the beginning. But who knows? Like, we never got to see how the Federation fumbled at the beginning. So why would he have tried to go back? Like, it's such a weird thing. But going back on the actual question, it is a good time to talk about it, because if you screw up this one point, then everything that we had seen so far just wouldn't happen. You change one little thing, maybe they don't meet the Andorians, they don't get that fourth species in the Federation, that just cascades off into something else. Like, it's an interesting premise that sort of went nowhere because they didn't know what to do with it. And they said that in the first season, like after they had talked, after the show had finished, they were like, yeah, we didn't know what to do with Future Man. When we first wrote him, we were just like, it's a mysterious voice from the future. We're like, fucking hell.
Of course.
Guys. And yeah, anyway.
Star Trek Enterprise, the documentary, when.
Yeah, right. MC, before you go, Kang brings up a good point. For this, the 22nd century Vulcans weren't exactly the best role models for Starfleet either. Like, it's amazing that they listen, like, they fought to go on that mission when the whole Klingon thing happened, but like, still, the Vulcans still just could be like, no, like, you're not going, and if you do, we're not helping you anymore.
Which
it was a very
also
messy
makes no
situation.
sense, but we'll again talk about the Vulcans later. Like, the whole Vulcan thing, it makes no sense in Enterprise, no sense at all.
Yeah. MC.
Well, first of all, I'm just going to say I'm big apologist for the Vulcans just in any time period, but especially during Enterprise. And also all of this talk about cowboy diplomacy. When was there diplomacy at Enterprise?
No, Archer literally commits genocide like 6 episodes into the season.
Yeah.
That's why I said militaristic.
But yeah, no, the 22nd century, it makes total sense to have this be a front in the Cold War. And just in thinking about this question, I would actually think that like the best point for people to hit is unavailable because it was already hit by the Borg. Like the Temporal Cold War, they would want to hit like the first contact, but the Borg are already just, like Borging all over it. So it's not available. So instead they've got to move like 50 years into the future.
You bring up such a good point with that. And I'm wondering if all of these factions, I mean, they have to be, right? Depending on like which, because obviously the United Federation of Planets being a faction in the Cold War is the 29th century UFP. So they know what happened with Montana. But I wonder how many of these other factions know or have like a dossier on the Borg incident there, because definitely, like, I don't think you'd be able to really do an incursion there at this point.
Mm-hmm. It is the thing, like, how would you be able to know, like, for example, how the Romulans would be aware of like that happening?
Or they sent someone
Romulans
back
are aware
and they
of
saw
everything.
it.
Romulans are aware.
Yeah, sure,
of
but like how?
Spies, literally spies. I mean, there's a human, like tomorrow. Like, there's a human spy, Romulan human-looking spy on Earth. Like, they're everywhere. You know this. You're Romulan. Come on. Sorry.
I mean, I would assume that there would be a Romulan on the Enterprise.
Oh, 1000%.
Yeah.
But yeah, but like, how do you keep track? Because like everything happens at the same time, right?
Well, not necessarily. Like, are all of these factions of the 29th century? Like the Suliban aren't. I think their faction.
No, they're 22nd.
Is 22nd. I think the Sphere Builders are 22nd because they just try to destroy Earth and destroy Florida. Thank you, Sphere Builders. And sorry to anybody from Florida.
We don't know how many factions are in between those times either.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
They just keep on saying like there's a bunch of us. Who knows?
I think the Not Cool are trying to get to the future. They're from the future and we're stuck in the past, and that's why they got the Nazis' help.
And where's Will Wheaton?
Will Wheaton is, well, that's a good point because he's a
He's
traveler.
narrating,
He's in all, Oh.
Well, I mean, I would actually
MC's
probably say that the Travelers are also a faction, just one that we don't hear about because they're in the background trying to fix everything that's going on.
And the Gary 7, like they're a faction too, I'd say.
Yeah.
Same for the Organians. Like, you have a bunch of people that like live out of time in Star Trek and like would just like be interested in fixing things, I suppose.
Well, and we're going to talk about it later. I didn't put it in the outline, so you guys are going to have to remind me, but also the Guardian of Forever. Like, the Guardian Forever moves themselves away because they're trying to misuse it, So that's definitely...
And, I mean, also, if you think about it, like, even... Like, I mean, like, the Federation is obviously in the Temporal Cold War, but like the Federation that we're, experience at various points in Star Trek. I mean, how many series do people go back in time to like fix shit or fuck shit
Yeah.
up. I mean, it happens all the time. That's all contributing to the Temporal Cold War. I think if you have time travel, there is some form of Temporal Cold War going on.
Yeah, 100%. Yep.
As long as you label your time portal like this is a time portal, I think that's
Yeah.
the most important thing.
Let's talk about Shockwaves parts 1 and 2. I didn't have these on the watch list, and after watching them, I immediately regret it because I actually think they're probably the most important episodes in the Temporal Cold War.
I didn't watch them.
Well, I will give you the recap. And you will
Shockwave?
figure.
I just rewatched it.
Yep. So Enterprise
Let's
ends
go.
up lighting the atmosphere of a planet with over 3,000 people on. Not Enterprise, a shuttle pod.
You're
but
forgetting a very important point. It's a planet ruled by women.
a planet, yes, a planet ruled by women. Another Archer
Which
fuck
Trip
up.
doesn't
Trip
understand
doesn't get
because he's Floridian and apparently Florida is just going downhill
Yep.
from now all the way to the 22nd century. So, and then they
Florida.
kill everybody.
Yeah.
It is
That's-
Florida.
By the way, Gene's asking about the cosmic koala's role in all of this, which is a very
Just a
good
watcher.
question. Just a watcher.
Just a
Watching
watcher.
over
Watcher.
all the
Watcher.
things.
Yep.
Yeah.
Along with Cosmic
Can't
Badgie now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the shuttle pod ignites the atmosphere of a planet with over 3,000 people on it, but Daniels transports Archer to I think 40 days or so, or 3 or 4 days.
10 weeks, he says.
Okay, before Enterprise launches.
Yeah.
Um,
It's 10 months.
is it?
10
Is it 10
months?
months?
Yeah, they had been out for that.
It
Oh.
felt like 10 years.
Yeah, so 10,
maybe.
10 months back, and I think 3 or 4 days before Enterprise launches. And he tells him, by bringing him into pass, that it wasn't you, right? Because Archer, like you were talking about off mic before we started, Archer was done. He was like, I'm going to quit. This sucks. I can't work ever
He's
again.
crying.
He was crying. Like, T'Pol's got
He's
to
crying.
knock some sense into him. But it takes Daniels being like, by the way, not dead. Hi. And be like, you didn't do it. And then Archer goes all Archer's like, we didn't do it, Trip. And they try to convince the Vulcans. But that's getting ahead a little bit.
Can we just say that he's transported before the Enterprise launches with all his memories,
Mhm.
Yep.
and he still does the same shit?
Yeah, he does.
So many questions.
Yep. Daniels gives Archer all the clues to infiltrate the Suliban ship that actually blew the atmosphere, right? But the Vulcans, as T'Pol will say throughout all of Enterprise, have deemed that time travel is impossible. So she's having a hard time buying all of this. And 2, they're also like, y'all can't be in space anymore, which is what the Suliban wanted. This is their deal in the Temporal Cold War. No Federation, no Archer, no them being a major power in the universe. And the Vulcans are like, you're done. You're not going back out to space for 20 years. And then meanwhile, this is kind of what I want to ask you guys, if you understand this, right? Like, these events somehow fuck up the timeline, and Earth being either destroyed or majorly bombed to the point of oblivion, right? And that's what strands Daniels and Archer in the future. Like, how does that factor into this?
So I assume, this is not me being a big what if, that because the Federation doesn't get built and they don't get sent out there, they become more like Mirror Darkly, like that type of
Okay.
thing. And they just fucking go full militaristic and destroy.
Or maybe tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow.
Yeah,
That-
like United Earth. Yes.
The fact that when he's in the library, the only book he looks is the Romulan Star
Romulan
Empire. I'm like, Earth got fucked because
Well,
they didn't have the Federation.
they
to
lose
protect.
they use the Romulan Federation War.
Yeah.
They probably lose it. Yeah.
Yeah, they lose it and they got annihilated.
Yep. That's actually great.
God.
I never thought about it that way. That's wonderful. So that I think answers that. But yeah, so they're stranded. But also it's the super smart move by Future Man, right? Or Archer, whoever the fuck he is. Frame Enterprise, make Starfleet's relationship with the Vulcans more on edge and volatile than ever, and then possibly just killing Starfleet and their space program for good. No Starfleet, no Federation, right? Draft.
Sorry.
No
What's the
Starfleet,
question in
no
there?
Starfleet, no Federation. It makes sense, right? This is a perfect move by Future Man.
Yeah, I don't know, but it doesn't make sense so much that the Vulcans, who are first contact people, would be no, you can't warp. First of all, who are you, and who put you in charge? I'm sorry.
That's actually a great,
Like,
yeah.
it's kind of like out of like General Order 1 or Prime Directive, like, point. I mean, you can interfere once, like, you can like be in contact with once they're warped, but who makes you decide that a full planet, a full society of people that are not your people, you can like ban them from space travel? Like,
I think the Vulcans wanted to have control over, like, they didn't want another, like,
I
it's
also
Earth is not the first planet they first contacted, right?
No.
It's like, no,
Mhm.
they have like colonies everywhere. They're
Mhm.
like everywhere, right? And like people know Vulcans, like they've been like trading for like, even the Bajorans have been like doing that like forever, right? And the Romulans, same. And you're like, you really think that it's gonna work? Like it's such a weird flex. Like it's like, for me, it's very early 2000, and they're just like mimicking like geopolitical like situations of the US in like 2003 or whenever it was. When was it? 2000? When was it? 2005?
talking about
It was
9/11?
like
Oh, this is
Yeah.
like
Putting-
this is 2002 or something.
Yeah, putting
Yeah.
like, how you say, like block us over like a planet. And I'm like, it doesn't make sense in Star Trek.
I wonder if, because of how precarious Earth was at the time that they went to warp first, like if they didn't ask the Vulcans for help, and then they were so, because the world is pretty much destroyed, right? They're in World War III. Like I wonder how much they asked Vulcan to help them, like rebuild society.
Oh, that there was a deal made,
there was
like
a deal that they'd be like,
a new deal with the Vulcans.
That's a great point too, because Earth, even in the 22nd century, like when Enterprise is about to launch, looks like pretty much rebuilt, and that's not that far off. Like
Mhm.
Cochrane, I think, is only a few years dead at this point, right? Like he has the video, but that's a pre-recorded video.
He's
from a
not
few
dead.
years.
He goes to another planet.
Oh yeah,
Remember?
fuck, that's
And
right.
he-
TOS, thank you. Yes, he's not dead.
Just be there
Yep.
for fun.
But like Earth is back, so I don't think they could have done that all on their own.
Yeah,
even,
and
even if they struck a new deal with the Vulcans. Sorry, MC, go.
Sorry. Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure Paul actually mentioned that on a couple of occasions. It might have even been Dear Doctor, that when they're talking about like helping out, and Paul says the Vulcans helped out on Earth and we're still there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not unlike a situation that when the Federation makes second contact, and then like the Cerritos, and they bring industrial replicators and stuff like that. They probably did all of that and helped them rebuild. Yeah.
So you think it was part of the deal? Like, we help you do all this, and if you fuck up your space program, you're grounded.
Yeah. I mean, it's logical.
Well, it's
I
the
think-
best way also to have your ally go as the Andorians, and then you get fucked over. I mean,
Well, yeah, true. Well, and then it's obviously Archer fucking uncovers the whole Vulcan spying on Andorians bullshit. Yeah, the Vulcans weren't like the nicest folk in the 22nd century. Lots of shady shit going on. So
Well, they weren't yet fetishizing humans all of the time. It was,
it's true. Gene, but the Vulcans get to meet many sexy humans. Yeah, I mean, not wrong. Yeah, so Shockwave happens. They do end up obviously fixing it. The Vulcans don't want them to go, but T'Pol at the end, like, straight up calls out Saval and is like, by the way, you're spying on Andorians. Like, we're going back up.
this whole thing makes no sense. First of all, that like humans are not gazelles. Who the fuck wrote this?
That speech was bad.
This is so dumb. Like,
When
this
I was in my
whole
20s, I
situation-
went to East Africa.
When I,
This
when I,
whole thing always sent me so far that I don't know how to come back. Like, it's just like ridiculous. And like they're talking like with like admirals and like, ambassadors, and like Trip is like, oh, you got no right. I was like, shut the fuck up. What are you? How old are you? What are you doing? They saw. And then the Vulcans are just like, then don't do it, and they leave. I'm like, what?
I
It's
feel like I should have
written
watched
how, like,
this episode.
12-year-olds,
it's a good,
12
it's
year
a
olds
really good
imagine
episode.
the world
But it's also-
works,
Like any Enterprise episode. Did other people go yet, or is
No.
the draft just going? Eric,
Well, when I
I'm
was in my
first.
20s, I went to East Africa and I saw Giselle being born on the side of the road. Okay, so I want to go back to the Archer going back in time to before the launch. What I assume happened, this is a big assumption, is that he was living in 2 points of time at the same time. And that's what was happening. Like when he was getting that information, he was getting it at the same time in the future. Like they couldn't go back in time to stop that fixed point in time, I guess, at that point.
Right. Like the atmosphere igniting happens no matter what.
Yeah, at
Yeah.
that point.
Yeah.
Moving forward. I don't know. That's
No, but
Me-
that makes
me
sense because
being
Daniels
general.
could have just taken them back, and he said it doesn't quite work that way. I think he said something
Yeah.
along those lines. So
because if he didn't do the same things over and over like that,
Yeah.
they would have gotten to that point or something. Anyway, that being said, yeah, it was neat seeing them failing and
Yeah.
that being the end of a season. And I remember seeing that live and being like, oh fuck, that's cool. And when they pulled back from that building, part of me was like, oh shit, is this a board cube? And then it wasn't, and that was sad. But it looked like that for a few seconds. I thought it was very strange that they could cobble together a device out of a communicator to send someone back in time. Like that was the only thing where I was like, the only thing.
The only thing I was like, the only thing.
But it was so weird. But I loved that. I think at this point that they were trying to maybe do the Archer thing, being the future man, because he looked like him in that shadow
He
figure.
did. He
And I
100%
thought that looked so cool.
did. Yeah. Gene in the chat. When I was in my 20s, I went to East Africa and I met a giraffe with a French accent, and she yelled about Romulans. It's true.
I'm gonna quit that podcast. I'm not appreciated.
I like hearing you yell about Romulans.
I love hearing you yell about Romulans.
This is the only time I get to hear about Romulan, so yeah. Other than that, like the ending was strange, like Giraffe said. Like all these like not high up people yelling at admirals and stuff. Like how did those admirals not just be like, we're gonna knock you down? You can go off the ship now if we do send you back.
So many reasons, right, to like not have Archer in command at that point. Like,
Yeah. It was nice seeing Archer have a little bit of humanity in this
Yeah,
episode,
that's
though.
true,
Being
too.
actually, sad about something and not angry at every single thing.
The important part is that even if we commit genocide, we still pick ourselves back up.
We learn
Yeah.
from our mistakes, even when everybody's dead.
I mean,
Yep.
At least he got to recount his tale about the Giselle.
He did. MC. I know you didn't watch the episode, but
I really wish that I had watched this episode. I mean, I think I have some vague
2 episodes.
recollections of it.
It's 2
That might
episodes.
be- yeah. It wasn't on the list, so that's why I didn't watch it. But just going off this, to Paul saying that time travel is impossible. That sounds to me like Vulcan lying bullshit, where the Vulcans absolutely know that time travel is possible. It's just they're going because I mean, obviously, Spock is like the one person who is able to like do like the around the sun like calculations. All those Vulcans are able to do that. They just know like how like not good it is. Because it's not. Time travel never does anybody any good. It just fucks things up even more, and you have to spend time
so
correcting
you think
it.
they're just lying to Starfleet, being like, no, this is not
Or do you
Yeah,
think
it's-
they compartmentalize and just have the higher ups know that
about it,
in
yeah.
Vulcan?
It's like when your
Possibly.
parents used to tell you if you put on the light in the car can't function. It's the same thing. Like, no, it doesn't
But your
exist.
car
Time
can
travel?
die.
It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. You can't do it. Don't look at it. It
If you
doesn't
make that
exist.
face, it'll stick that way.
Yeah.
I tell my kids that.
There's an episode before we talk about Stormfront that I didn't put on this list, and I actually regret. And I watched and they listened to like 5 minutes of it, and that's Carpenter Street, where T'Pol and Archer go back to 2001 Detroit. And it's like a weird ass episode, but like it's also good. Like the Zindi are trying to pull some bullshit, and Daniel's like, "You got to go and stop them." They're like taking like humans' blood. It's fucking weird.
There's a guy stealing blood, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a weird ass episode, and it's filmed like a Showtime porno, but
Like all of Enterprise.
like all of Enterprise.
That's fair. That is.
But it's a good time travel episode because
So
like
true, Mo.
right? But it forces T'Pol to be like kind of okay, yeah, time travel exists. Like you have a cell phone in your hand and you're driving a car. Like, sorry.
Well, it's like when they pretend like they don't know Romulans exist when like they had a full 100 years war against them like not so long ago.
Right,
You're like,
right.
you know these assholes exist and you know they look like you know that, but you're like just pretending.
Harker, sorry. Harker goes, wow, Julie. And I'm like, but tell me when I'm telling lies. Like, it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. Oh, man. Archer made for a convincing wannabe Homeland Security agent. I mean, dude, he would thrive as a Homeland Security agent. Are you kidding? Like, ugh. Let's talk about let's talk about. Were you done, MC?
Oh, and
I'm
just
sorry.
since I was cut off, just in terms of no Starfleet, no Federation, absolutely, because like the Starfleet is the Federation. Like,
yeah,
let's fucking own up to it at this point. Like, we can pretend that the Federation is its own separate thing. It is absolutely not.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about Stormfront, which kind of works as the end of the Temporal Wars. It's such a weird two-parter, and
it's so weird.
It's so weird, and there's Nazis. So yeah, over the course of Enterprise, we know the sphere builders try and destroy Earth, but they fail. That all comes to a head in the season 3 finale. But by this point, as we mentioned earlier, one of the players is not cool. They turn the Cold War into full out, like, we are going to change a fixed point in time. This is like a war now because we want to go home. So Enterprise gets stranded in World War II Germany. They all think, by the way, that Archer's dead. He gets transported there too. It's very Man in the High Castle, if you've ever watched that show. Hitler is basically won, occupied the U.S. with the help of the not cool. As we mentioned, they think the temporal cords are bogus, blah, 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 blah. Obviously, Archer and co end up saving the day after, like, the Italian mafia become, like, one of, like, they're basically the de facto military in the U.S. There's actors from The Sopranos in it. There was a joke if Hawk was going to be here tonight about The Sopranos. I didn't get to tell it. I'm a little sad.
Tell it. Just tell it.
It's not in the outline anymore and I forgot it, but like I was just like, I thought it would be funny. I was like, Hawk was wondering how like one of the actors from The Sopranos made it, or the character from The Sopranos made it into, you know, like 1942
that's funny.
Earth. Yeah. It was funny on paper.
It's still funny, Julie.
Thank you. So they saved the day with the help of Silic, right? I actually really like that moment at the end with Silic when he dies and he's like, man,
I really like when he dies.
I really like when, but he's like, oh, like,
me speaking about Trip.
Yeah. You made for a really good adversary. Like, I wish it was you and I fighting and like you had killed me instead of this, because they end up working together. I like that little moment. It's nice when like you have that moment with that final moment with your adversary. They're like, what?
I mean, like they did that in Balance of Terror.
Yeah, exactly. So according to Daniels, this event, them saving the day and stopping Hitler from winning the war, ends the temporal Cold War, right? I don't understand. This is where I started getting the headache. The real reason is that Manny Cotto did not want to do the temporal Cold War anymore, and apparently the studio also was like, sorry, what did I mispronounce his name? MC?
No.
Oh, okay.
No,
sorry.
I'm.
We're
having
just
emotions
cringing.
over
This
it.
episode is
We're cringing.
cringe. We're
Yeah,
just
right.
This episode's cringe. Yeah.
It is cringe. Yeah. So this is apparently what ends the war. My question is, how does a war, well, one, why? And two, like, how does a war fought through the fabric of time end, right? Like, how do you get the message to everybody that the war's over? Giraffe.
You transport a little white flag all the way through.
all through time.
You go to New York, Toronto, in the 21st century, and you tell that lone fucker Romulan, yo, go home. I'm not gonna answer the question because I have no fucking clue, because it makes no fucking sense. But I do have something to say though. I did a whole podcast about how Star Trek is inherently very American, and that's very funny because every time I watch these like Nazi episode, for me they were so like an American vision of this, you know? And it's kind of hilarious, not hilarious, but it's kind of like tapping into the mainframe of American PTSD and American.
Well, that's what Enterprise was, right, Giraffe? Like that's
1000%. Yeah. You know, but like how World War II is such a key element of like being the heroes of World War II is such a key element of like what used to be the global American psyche, you know, that they need to replay this in like every single Star Trek. And sure enough, stopping World War II stops all the wars. Like, my man, this is so Western centric and American centric that this kind of like drives me insane. That's why there's no rhyme of reason. Like, it's written for somebody who's not gonna ask question like us and be like, oh yeah, you know, if I go back in time and kill Hitler, this is gonna be the perfect timeline. Like, no. There's a lot of people in the world that don't know who the fuck Hitler was, you know? Like, it's and anyway, it makes no sense. And Star Trek, I'm very glad that Star Trek stopped doing that this episode because, like, for real, like, move on. Like,
we still have another season of Discovery. We don't.
No, but we're getting fucking Romulans. We're getting Romulans. Wait a second. Hold on. Do I have it? Yep. Had to. They're coming, baby. They're fucking coming.
Yeah. Anyway, it's. I think like the Nazi episode have been replaced by the Borg episode, which, you know,
or mirror universe episodes too.
I don't know, because like I feel the mirror episode as kind of like more like an enemy within vibe, like explore like what's bad inside of us, you know, when the Borg is like that giant thing that wants to like convert all of us and make us wear all the same clothes and then like, you know, make us bid to the fascism. It's like I don't know, it's
it's like when the
this episode is bad. It makes no sense. When I saw the first 5 minutes of it, I was like, fuck me. And I don't know. Yeah. Next.
Just before you go, Eric, I love this. Sorry, I love this comment from Eric Summers. How does a temporal unconditional surrender happen?
I was going to talk about this.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. So this had no right being 2 episodes. There was no point in this being 2 episodes. It was so long and nothing happened for the end of the first episode to the beginning to the middle of the second episode. I was just like, no.
They're in a car.
That sounds like a Star Trek 2-parter to me.
Oh, that's not fair. That's not fair.
There's some good ones.
I mean, but a lot of them.
I don't know.
Also, as a premiere 2-parter,
like not bad.
This episode, these episodes, 2 episodes confound me. Like it's such a weird way to start the last season of Enterprise. That being said, ending the Cold War by blowing up this thing, I don't even remember what it's called.
It was just a wormhole device. They were trying to take that wormhole to get back home, and they destroy it in New York City.
How do you end a Cold War without all sides like confirming that they're not going to do anything, right? Like
knowing that one of the sides are Romulans and they're not going to stop.
Yeah, I just like how do you end? You can't end a Cold War like that. Like it makes no sense. When it happened, I was just like, oh my God.
You're taking Daniels, who, listen, like, he's a shady dude. Like, you're taking his word for it and only his word.
And only because it's shiny lights going around you? Like, sure. Yeah, it's done. We'll never see time travel again in Star Trek, right? That's what it makes no sense. And it really sucks that we only get Daniels showing up as a temporal agent all through these seasons. Like, is he such a higher up person that he gets Archer? Like, he seemed like such a grunt in the first season,
and he fucks up a lot too. Like, he's not good at his job.
He dies in the first episode we see him. like I don't understand. Like I don't understand how it ended. Just like I've seen this not so many times, but a number of times, and every time I see this, I'm just like, this makes no sense. Why would this end? This one faction, like, we don't know if it's the biggest faction. We don't know if it's like
maybe the most dangerous faction.
Dangerous one. Like they don't talk. Daniels doesn't talk about it.
Eric brings up another good point, which let's talk about. There has to be a temporal version of mutually assured destruction to get everyone to stop and also to agree to ban time travel. I mean, again, I think that's true, but how? Like how do you? Is there a button you press on your magic temporal device? Like, war's over.
When this show got canceled, part of me was wishing that the next Star Trek series was about the time. Like just about time.
Yeah.
Like just about the time war. Like how do they police it? Like, which is such a weird thing because they can't be the only policemen in this out of these factions, right? It has to be like again, like mutually done with all of these different factions. Like that would have been such an interesting take. Like something we'd never seen before in Star Trek. But no.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, as it is, like the very next Star Trek thing we see, the first thing that happens is a temporal incursion that was so big it caused an entire parallel reality.
Yep.
Oh my God, you're right. Very true. Yep. MC, keep going. What do you got?
Yes.
If you were done, Eric.
No. So I just I have feelings about the Nazis of this. I mean, I was saying before we started the show, I have such an issue with the throwing out Nazi imagery, especially in science fiction and fantasy. And they seem to really like to, throw it out there to be like, look at how bad these people are. Now, part of me is thinking that the reason why they pick World War II, like they did it in this, they did it in the Killing Games, they did it in Patterns of Forces, right, in the TOS episode. Because it is like one of the few human time periods where no one will get offended about portraying them as just completely evil.
Yeah.
True.
Yep.
But still overused. Please do not do it anymore. Because frankly, I think the whole reason they did it is so that they could have an alien in a Nazi uniform. Because that was very,
not wrong.
Spicy imagery.
Yeah.
And I mean, like I just said, temporal incursions kept on happening and they actually got worse. And I mean, like, the thing is, it's like, how does time work? I mean, like, we see what happens on Discovery, which certainly has a lot of time travel involved in it. But does that happens after Enterprise, but it happens before? Like when does it happen? Like, because time is an illusion.
Yeah.
So from our perspective, Star Trek has dealt with a lot of fucking time travel. And the only thing I can take is that, the Temporal Cold War never ends. It's,
I would agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, maybe Daniel's faction, they're like, okay, we're good at this point. And so that's...
Well, right. Maybe
I think somebody just won. I think that's what happened. It's just like nobody really knows because it keeps moving, but everybody arrived to a point in the timeline when they were happy and they were like, I won. And the other one like, I won. And they were like, I won. And just like, it fizzled.
Yeah.
Everybody got tired and forgot the plot. Like me when I watch Enterprise.
Yeah.
When Book says that time travel is like outlawed, like how do they know that people aren't doing it still? Like,
because apparently, and Vance says it too, they destroyed the ability, to time travel was destroyed.
The Romulans still have it, right?
They stole that fucking portal and they have it on Romulus, right?
All you have to do is hit go ahead. Yeah.
They got rid of the math, Julian. They can't do that anymore. They can't go around sites.
Yeah, it's just, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, I mean, apparently the only two people who could do that is Spock and the Borg Queen. So.
Yeah. Anyway.
And there's a bunch of random portals everywhere, apparently, that you can just transport into your ship and steal. So
did the Bajorans really let them destroy the orb of time? I have a lot of trouble believing that.
Yep. Everybody in the chat, by the way, is like, yeah, Paramount
It
had
was
all the Nazi
destroyed.
uniforms laying around from TOS and Indiana Jones. So
That's fair.
Why not use
They made
them?
new ones for the last one.
Yes, right. Let's keep talking about this. I think there's a joke somewhere in here, right, about trying to keep things in chronological order because now we're going to Strange New Worlds because, fuck, I don't know. But tomorrow, briefly in here, right, we get to the TOS era and we find out that the Romulans are very much a player in the Temporal Cold War. I would say what they're trying to do is almost like turning it into a full-on conflict by trying to kill Khan, so that the Federation and Starfleet aren't formed, right? Like that, they just kind of like World War III destroys them and they don't like or like those conflicts don't happen, right? If Khan is dead, like the eugenics wars don't happen, maybe World War III doesn't happen, and it takes them a lot longer to find warp drive. I don't exactly get why killing Khan is like the thing here, but yeah, exactly.
They don't know either. They're just trying random stuff.
Then they can't do
Yeah,
like
it's
cool
because they
cameos.
wanted the shocking moments of, oh my God, Khan is a kid.
Yeah.
They have to pay
I like this
Brett
episode, so I
do
Spiner,
too.
you know?
Yeah.
It's like mandatory
Yeah.
to have him in every show.
But
I do think, to answer your question,
I was actually
listen.
keep going for a second, but then you can answer the question because this is so much more than that, right? Because we've been talking about how the Romulans are a player in this, right? Like we have the temporal agent from both the Kelvin universe, like he hops universes and time, so he's a temporal agent, and he goes into the TNG era. Like what era are these Romulans from that are infiltrating Earth, right? Like where
TOS. You saw the ship.
Oh yeah, that's right. So needless to say too, like they could even been doing it during the 22nd century as well. I've so many.
And I need to correct you. The Kelvin agent was from the TNG era, but got transported into the 32nd century.
Yeah, he was from the Kelvin TNG era.
Exactly. Yes.
He wears a TNG outfit, and they speak about like the events of the Kelvin verse, and then he ended up in the 32nd century.
But like,
which was like,
yeah.
Yeah, I know, right?
But Drafko, there's a question in here somewhere about how long the Romulans have been a bit of player, but also
that's what I was gonna say. I was like, that the fucker was like, what if we go back in time and try to change the timeline so we can win? Was a Romulan.
Yeah,
you know that. Like they started that shit 1000%. I cannot imagine humans doing it. Like everybody would have like some like, but that's going to bite us in the ass. Like the only people who have no, I don't know, like control over like, this is not gonna go well. Or the Romulans, they started it. Somebody realized that they were like agents, like, and they just stuck a bunch of people everywhere. That's what I think.
Yep,
they just sent.
I think she says that, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In like different places, like random places in time and in the galaxy. And I think there's sleeper agents, and they just wait when like their future men just tell them, now you activate and you go do that thing, because that's going to change something that now is impacting us down the line. I do think it's something like that, which is super smart. Like they are the wild card Charlie, you know, just like everywhere. And the temporal agent we see, Daniels and so on, are like trying to undo that and like find them and like restore or like find out what the fuck did they fucked with.
Well, right, and she says that this is
really
also like how the 22nd century was a major front, like trying to kill Khan was also a major front. She says like this has been changed so many times. Like in this timeline now, it's happened 30. Like Khan comes to power, I think 30 years later than he was supposed to. It's crazy. So yeah, keep going. Sorry.
No, that's pretty much it. Yeah. I do think that's what the Temporal Cold War is. It's just like people putting a bunch of spies everywhere. And then when you're in the 24th century and like the Roman Senate election doesn't go down well, they're like, you know what? If we kill that fucker like 400 years ago, maybe that's going to change something. Yeah. And they just try it to see what if, you know? Yeah. And the agents are just trying to like clean up and go back to like whatever they considered. That's the interesting question. It's like, what is the
prime timeline.
main events?
Yep,
How
yep.
do they know what
Oh,
are the
right,
main
right,
events?
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
Computers.
And
Eric.
now I want to see a Quantum Leap-esque show where time agents are going back in time trying to fix what the Romulans are fucking up. Oh, just want to see that now. That's so cool. Now I'm wondering, so this Romulan is from the TOS era, right? Because
Yep.
of the ship.
Yep.
So when old Pike goes back in time at the end of the first season, where does he get that technology?
From the Klingons.
Like,
Klingons.
They said it from the Klingons? Okay, I couldn't remember
the
that.
Klingons give him a time crystal because they're like,
Yeah.
dude.
Oh, yeah, the time crystals.
You
Fuck, yeah.
fucked up.
You
More
fucked up.
time
Go
travel.
back.
Oh. And yeah, I just like everything that Draft said about them being called it like sleeper agents. That makes so much sense, especially with the Romulans. And they already have people everywhere. We see that in the Picard era, TNG era.
Yeah, with the Vulcan ambassador, the Vulcan priestess, who's actually a Romulan super agent.
Yep.
Yeah, like 1000%. Which explains also how scared they are in Drumhead about Drumhead. Was it
Drama about
Yeah.
Romulans, yeah.
Yeah, about Romulans, and they're like, no, he's an agent. Like, yeah, because I'm sure they find like randos all the time that are
time.
just here, and you're like, wait, why are you in Wisconsin? What are you doing? I can't tell you. Like, what do you mean? Like, why? So no, I'm pretty sure it's like creates a anxiety, which I understand.
It makes you think of like how big of a player they are and like the Xindi aren't going after them, they're going after Federation
Yeah.
instead because they know they can't do anything about the Romulans. Like
Romulans are sneaky.
They're
They are
sneaky
sneaky.
as fuck.
I like
Leave,
that.
love, lurk.
Yeah, we got to make that shirt. You good, Eric? MC.
So I feel like, especially with this episode, there were just some Romulans sitting around asking themselves the question, it's like, if you could time travel, would you kill baby Hitler? Except in this version, they were like, if you could time travel, would you kill baby Khan? And then one of those fuckers were just like, do you know what? Not only would I do it, I'm actually going to go do it. Because, that's how they roll.
That's what Romulan Ale is for. Temporal Cold War plots.
And yeah, no, I think the Romulans have been in the Temporal Cold War forever. Like, I'm not exaggerating when I said they're just really sneaky. And I think the only reason we didn't hear about them in Enterprise, because of course Enterprise had to play real coy with the Romulans because of the Romulans look like Vulcans and Balance of Terror.
We've never seen an actual face, even though we fought a war against them for like decades.
100 years.
Yeah, 100-year war, yeah.
Well, they kept on killing them, and it's like, oh, damn, I got another Vulcan.
Oh, jeez.
And even if they fought them, they also know the story that they split from Vulcans. Like, they know
You would
that.
think.
Yeah.
They do know that. Like, it's just wild. You gotta love Vulcans.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I actually think that this episode is my favorite.
Temporal shenanigans.
Yes, that's the version of the Temporal Cold War, because it actually feels like a Temporal Cold War as opposed to all of the episodes with Daniels. And it's like, there's this Temporal Cold War going on. And it's just this dude that like made Archer's food that,
Yeah.
it's just
He
like,
made
by the way,
soft-
I'm from the future.
Soft scrambled eggs.
Yeah.
Damn,
That's how
I
I-
want
that's
soft
how he
scrambled.
That's how he
him.
trusted. Have I ever made them wrong? I'm like, so the fuck what, man? Like, are you kidding me?
Well, let me tell you about this Giselle. I saw it.
Baby Gazelle.
Gazelle.
Baby Gazelle.
Are you good, MC?
I'm more than
We're not good.
I think she's struggling at this point. We're about to wrap up. Finally, we're talking about That Hope Is You Part 1, Die Trying. I literally am talking to myself while writing this outline and wrapping my head around all this. My headache was bad. Michael winds up in the 32nd century, right? A few hundred years after the Temporal Cold War, because that took place in the 29th century. Book tells Michael afterwards that when it ended, time travel, we've talked about this already, outlawed and destroyed, which just outlawing makes sense, right? Like you can punish someone for it, but you can't destroy time travel once you have the math. Like Eric said, you can't destroy the math. But anyway, they say it is. And then that's seemingly after Archer blew up the Nazis in the 22nd century. But I guess, yeah, does that just mean that time travel tech is destroyed in the future? Like, because people are time traveling, like we talked about this. Kelvin happens. They're time traveling in DS9 and in TNG, and like you can't have it destroyed in all space and time. Because time travel does still obviously happen. Like, and then in the future, in the 32nd century, is it only outlawed and you're only a criminal if you come anytime past the 29th century? Like, my brain, it doesn't make any sense. Giraffe, help me. Like,
I think they can't outlaw it because just like look at Michael. Like, she comes from a time where it's not outlawed and she
Right.
just ends up there. I do think they're trying to not create more time travelers.
Right.
So there's less fuckers going around, and like moving things. It's like, with atomic weapons, nuclear weapons, it's just like they're here. We know we have them. Let's agree to not make more.
More, yeah.
And like, let's see what happens. And it's like if you outlaw stuff, people are still gonna do it, and they're not the master of the whole universe. Like, it's kind of ridiculous that the 32nd Century Federation, which is like five
Defunct,
guys
yeah.
on one ship, is like, no, we outlawed it. Like, what do you know the Gorn are doing? Like, you don't know.
Well, to be fair, book doesn't say specifically that it's the Federation, just that it is outlawed. I mean, Vance does say it in Die Trying. He's like, it's outlawed, it's done. But was that the treaty of all of the factions in it that did that? Like,
the Orions are doing whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah.
But I do think it became like a general agreement that it's a bad thing, you know. And now that the Romulans are actually Vulcans, I think taking out the Romulan out of the equation really calmed the thing down. I'm pretty certain. Like, they're the only one that would be like, no, I don't care. So I do think that now everybody just, like how society progress, and you're like, yeah, burning witches is not a good thing. Like, stop doing this. Like, I do think it's just, it's not good. Like that, like Cold War temple thing craziness. Like, just stop. And I think it just like quiet the things down, and they put a big taboo on it so much that even when Book sees that she time travel, he's like, oh, you're gonna get fucked. So I don't think it's also like a change from society after a big event like 29th century. I think it's ingrained in people that it's really stupid and you should not be doing that.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, how the war is so big in 29th century when we know that Romulan doesn't exist at that time anymore.
How long has Navarre been in place by the time?
But that's a big question.
Yeah, because that would, like, is it somewhat new? Was it like a few hundred, like only maybe a couple hundred years after Spock dies? Like, when does it happen? I mean, I think they talked about it. Like, it still took a really long time.
Well, it had to be post supernova for sure, and then quite a long time for all the all the remnant of the Empire to just like chill. I'm pretty sure there's still people who are still considering themselves
just Romulan,
Star Empire somewhere,
aka the Tal Shiar.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the plot in Star Trek Online, actually, that you have a bunch of people who are just like, no, we're gonna keep doing it. Like, and you're like, why? Why are you doing this? So yeah, I think it's interesting. I hope Discovery is gonna give us a little bit more.
Eric brought it up, and this is true. I remember this now. Navarre existed before the burn because the Romulans actually wanted to stay in the United Federation of planets instead of leaving. After the burn happened,
it exists before the burn because they're also blamed for like maybe causing the burn.
Exactly.
You remember, because they were fucking around with something.
Yep.
But the question is like, if the Temple War is like the big war is 29th century, and the burn is 31st century.
Yeah.
Like, when did Navarre already existed before?
I'm gonna say yes.
The war?
Yeah. Oh.
Or not? Or was it a result of the end of the war?
That's also a good
because
question.
I think that as a result of the end of the war, it makes a lot of sense. But then it's like 200 years old.
Yeah.
Which, would explain why Tarina is explaining that when they do the thing with Michael, when she has to explain herself, you see that there's still tensions between like the Romulan-born Nivorian, the Vulcan-born, and the Romulan Vulcan woman. Like you clearly see that it's not still big new. Yeah.
Eric.
I going thinking about how they said that technology has been erased or has been destroyed. I think the only thing that I would want destroyed from that time era was that Enterprise J. It was just so fucking
Dude,
ugly.
please and thank you.
Like it doesn't make sense that they
So
would
petty.
get rid. You know who wouldn't get rid of the time travel? I am petty about that. You know who wouldn't get rid of time travel equipment? The Romulans, like we had said earlier. Section 31 would never get rid of
Absolutely.
that shit. I have a hard time believing the Klingons would also destroy that.
The Gorn?
The Gorn? Well,
Yeah,
we
I
don't know
mean,
if the Gorn are there then, right? Or
No, they are. The book
They are.
says
The
like
Gorn
they're
in Germany is a
destroying.
thing.
Yeah, they're destroying sections of subspace. Like two.
Oh
like,
yeah. Oh yeah.
I
It's
mean,
been such a
also
long
in
time.
terms of the Klingons, their time travel is deeply tied to a religious order.
Those time
So-
crystals aren't
But
going anywhere. Yeah,
We still don't know where the fuck the Klingons are, right?
dude,
we still don't
maybe
discover.
the Temporal Cold War. Maybe like that's the event. Maybe the Klingon Empire was erased from history, and that's when they were like, not the shit that happened with the Nazis and Archer, but maybe the Klingons got wiped out, and they're like, okay, we're not fucking around with time anymore because we haven't seen a fucking Klingon.
Maybe the monastery blew up. Somebody went and was like, "We're blowing up that shit. That's the end."
Then
And
there's no more
like,
time.
Caused such a social unrest and social instability into the Klingon Empire that they collapsed.
Yeah, I mean, dude,
Let me write Discovery 6. I have IDs.
Like, I hope they don't just sweep it under the carpet like with this season. I hope they still talk. Like they mentioned it. Like, I just want to know more, a little bit more. It has been such a nugget throughout the last
don't you
30
think
years.
the Section 31 movie maybe
it's got to
talking about
because she
that?
goes back in time. It's got to,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
I would love her to go every place all at the same time.
Anywhere, everywhere, all at once.
everywhere, all at
No, I was
once,
trying to change it a
all
little
the
bit
time.
so that it could be that movie.
every day. all at once.
Are you good?
If you've not seen The Brother's Son, Michelle
I
Yeoh
wanna
kicks
watch that.
ass in that show so much. Support everything she does.
Yep. MC.
So I don't know if I really have an answer to this other than like the 9 remarks that I've been making so far during this. But there is something that I would like to bring up, and that is maybe these are not exactly events in the Temporal Cold War, because they do seem to set like this Temporal Cold War as a very specific century in time in which this has happened. And like when they outlaw it, it's after that, after like their like accords and everything. But certainly, and I mentioned it before, there's been a lot of fucking time travel like in Star Trek that, we've experienced from our heroes. And just thinking about it, things that, it's not always, like with First Contact where the Borg go back and then the Enterprise has to go back to fix what the Borg has changed. I mean, like look at Quality of Mercy. Like that is a future Pike deciding he does not like the path that he went on. So he goes back because like our Pike was fully gonna, survive.
Well, it wasn't even Pike that does it, right? It's the Klingons. The Klingons are like, dude,
The
you
Roman
were supposed to
Empire.
follow your path and you didn't. Here's a time crystal. If you don't use it and convince yourself not to do this, we're gonna kill you.
They're like
Yeah.
such in deep shit with the Romulans that they're like, yeah, we're gonna go back and we're gonna not do that.
Yeah, because they're not happy with it. And then also, I mean, I hate to bring it up, but also I have to. Janeway.
Oh,
In
we're gonna
Endgame.
talk about Jane. Yeah, we're gonna.
Yeah, like
That's the very next question. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, you have these people who go back because they're not happy with what happened, and like that's I feel like that in my heart of hearts, I'm like, that's an incursion upon the temporal Cold War. It's just, it happens well before. These are like the building blocks of the temporal Cold War.
Yeah. Let's talk about Trekkies and online arguments and bullshit. Mainly about what's the
Which
prime
one?
timeline and what's not, and is Discovery in the prime timeline? Okay.
Is it 15% different?
Let me ask this question seriously, because this is my answer now to whenever this conversation comes up. With the temporal Cold War, and honestly, Voyager's many changes to the timeline, does the prime timeline actually exist at all? Just like,
I don't.
Oh, go ahead, Eric.
I feel like the multiverse in Marvel, there are so many different timelines and threads. Like, who's to say? Who's to say? I personally think that there is the original timeline and then the Kelvinverse timeline, just because that's how it's been presented to us. Does it matter where these shows fit in them for me? Not really.
And what about the mirror universe? Is that a different time? That's a different time.
That's another
right?
thread, right?
Well,
Okay.
it's not a
Well,
different
no, that's a
time. It runs
different
concurrent
universe.
to ours.
It's a different
Yeah,
universe, right?
Universe,
Because there is a Kelvin mirrorverse.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair.
So
And it's super hot and horny.
fuck, I forgot what I was gonna say now. Yeah, so there are universes, right, that exist like in parallel. They're not time, but there are timelines, because in Enterprise we see that the mirrorverse exists because they shot the Vulcan.
But no, I don't know if that's
That's where they diverge.
I don't know if that's divergent, because if you actually like in the opening credits, don't they like show like a lot more militaristic stuff? Like it's just a
Nazis?
more aggro, like
So there's a bunch of different timelines, right? Pop. We're all universes, whatever.
Yeah.
Why not? Where somehow things happen quite the same, but at one point we shot like the tip and a half, like for no reason. I don't know.
It's the MCU way of looking at it, right? Like there's branches off from the prime timeline in the mirror universe. The mirror universe is complicated, right? Like, what's his name in Discovery? David, played by the horror director. Why can't I remember his name?
Cronenberg?
Yeah, David Cronenberg. He talks about how like the mirror universe is it's all fucked and complicated. But
so I think there's a prime timeline for us, which is the prime timeline that we're following in Star Trek. Right. And I do think that they jump around in it and that things get changed. But I think that the only clear branch that we know of is the Kelvinverse.
I would say,
because all the other ones we cannot
agreed.
come back to the main one.
My biggest thing with the Prime universe is that if you go to Voyager and you watch the episode Timeless, like there's a lot of other shit that happens before then, but Timeless is a very like I don't know how to describe it, but it is a very big breach of the timeline. It's not what's supposed to happen. Like Chakotay and Harry like Voyager's supposed to just get destroyed, right? Chakotay and Geordi, I mean, Geordi's in the episode. Chakotay and Harry go back, and Geordi tries to stop them, but like they do change the timeline and prevent Voyager from getting destroyed. Like that changes the prime timeline. I think if you're and I know I'm going ahead of Eric, I'm sorry. I think if like you're a temporal agent and you're looking at their fancy device that has all like the wrinkles and the branches, I think the prime timeline is not a straight line. I think that it kind of wiggles, and they keep it to a point where it's not like destructing it on itself, that it's fine if there's like these little changes.
We agree that whatever was supposed to happen, the prime timeline is the one where Voyagers come back. Even if it's like future Janeway that comes and save them and whatever, it's still what is supposed to happen to us.
I think that we're looking at this backwards. The only reason that there is the only person that is actually Prime is Spock. There is a Spock Prime, and the only reason Spock Prime exists is because he's the progenitor of the Kelvin timeline.
Jesus.
Yeah.
No, you're right. Yeah.
I'm
No,
serious.
I know.
No.
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah, he is the one who created the Kelvin timeline. So he is the Prime. He is the first Spock. That's why we call him Spock Prime. And it's and I mean, I know Trekkies get like all like Trekkie about it, where the 15% different or whatever the fuck is going on.
Yeah.
But like the only reason we call him Spock Prime is because we need some way to differentiate him from Spock Quino.
And
Yeah.
that's he's
And we've
also,
seen
yeah.
it. And we've seen a direct correlation between Ethan Spock and Leonard Nimoy Spock. So they are
Yes.
exactly the same one.
They are the same
Yeah.
character.
Right?
Yep. They are the
So-
same character.
The people who internet.
Internet.
Man. Thinking about Voyager's many timeline breaches and how Harry Kim has saved that ship so many times
fucking times.
makes
but
me
he's
think
not
that
the original. You remember?
Yeah, he
He's
died.
also not the
Duplicate.
original Harry Kim.
yeah, true. Makes me think that he would be like a perfect time person to recruit into the time
Time
agents.
yeah.
How are you
Like-
sure they didn't? Like you
Oh,
haven't
yeah.
heard from
They
Harry in a while.
Yeah, that's why I'm thinking. I was like, oh yeah, that would be cool.
And
Spock
I
to
mean,
the
That's
we
the
didn't
promotion
speak
he
so
gets.
much, but like the travelers are like a super interesting,
Yeah.
like group of
Mhm.
people because you know that they still exist in the 32nd century.
They
Like,
yeah.
yeah, they have to. So they outlaw them. Like, that's
Right.
why
Dude, the
like
Qs,
whole,
the
like,
Qs travel in time too. So
yeah, the Organians.
bet
there's a
you
bunch
that-
of
It's
The
bullshit.
people from the Temple Cold War don't even know about the Travelers. Travelers are beyond the Temple Cold War.
I
what
would
about
be
the
on-
Gary 7?
Yeah.
Well, the Gary 7 works for the Travelers, doesn't he?
Yeah, but they seem to be like really involved into like being sleeper agents and stuff.
Yeah.
So I felt
Mhm.
like and like Kirk knows about them. I mean, like they
Yeah.
get to know about them, so they know they exist, right?
But
Like
they-
same in DNG, they learned that the travelers
Mhm.
exist,
Yeah.
so people know they exist, right?
Oh, and the Elorians. Guinan.
Mhm.
Oh, and the
yeah.
the Elorians, yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't know, and it's just I think listen, it was
Earth
written in
Man.
the 60s again, as I was saying, $13 and a bag of Coke. So I don't know, it's supposed to make a lot of sense. I don't think it will ever make sense, but I think it's fun to think that it's supposed to make sense.
Oh man.
Yeah, and honestly, the ending of the Temple Cold War is just make it go away.
Oh, which is sad because I think they could have done more with it had Enterprise gone on, but that's a whole nother story.
Well, I mean, they brought it back up in Strange New Worlds
Yep.
in Discovery.
Yep. Let's we didn't do a mailbag, but we do have a subspace to pull, which speaking about Voyager, I didn't put the numbers in here, so I'll read it. Apologies. But let's do that.
Hailing frequencies open.
We asked Trek Twitter what series they would have liked to see focus on the temporal Cold War had they been able to, and this is what they said. 11% said TOS, 22% said TNG, 28% said DS9, and not really a shock here, 39% Voyager. I mean,
they need more time.
I 100% say
Yeah.
Lower Decks.
well, I
think
meant
I said Voyager.
series
I
that
know.
That
I know. I'm just giving my opinion.
Voyager.
Star Trek the Animated Series.
Oh God.
Ooh.
I mean,
2 bags of Coke.
2 bags of Coke. And I think
And
there's
no money.
I don't think
And
we're
no
done
money,
with it, right?
$5.
Because Prodigy is also timey-wimey shenanigans, and we're
Yes.
gonna get
Oh,
more of that in season
Every Star
2.
Trek is timey
Yeah.
wimey shenanigans.
Aaron Walkie.
Almost more than
chime
Doctor
in.
Who.
Yeah, right. Oh God. I hope that we did a good job trying to wrap our heads around and explain the temporal Cold War. Even if we didn't, I think we still had
didn't.
a hella good time. This episode went about as exactly how I was expecting it to go. It was really fun. And we talked about Enterprise. So, that's new for us. Well, I mean, we talked in depth
Been a
about
long road.
Oh, here he goes. It's been fun. But that's going to do it for this one. Next week, we are going to be talking about movies, wants, don't wants, Picard. It's going to get very interesting and maybe a little bit heated. I'm so here and ready for it.
Maybe.
Not here. And I want to say that I'm not going to be here, not because I don't want to be here, but I'm actually cannot be here. And I'm really disappointed in this.
Oh, you can't.
Oh, look at him.
I'm so sorry.
I'll be here to make it heated.
MC'll hold your flag. It'll be good. It'll be good. All right, folks, that's gonna do it. It's late. We will see you next week. For MC, for Eric, for Giraffe, I am Julian. Live long and prosper. Sarcastic Vulcan salute Majram, and good night.
Thanks for beaming into our podcast today. If you want to keep the hailing frequencies open, you can subscribe on Apple and Google Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify. Like what you hear? Put in a good word with Starfleet and leave us a 5-star review.